Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are outside. We are going to talk a little bit about cover and using cover in self-defense situations. And I just want to go into some certain topics and certain thoughts on cover. And let's just kind of learn together, guys, because this is something that isn't talked about a lot in the self-defense world. There's a lot of training on the open range, and a lot of people show a lot of training on just standing still and drawing your gun and using your gun and shooting your gun accurately. But there's not a lot of channels that do a lot of training when it comes to using cover. And to be honest, guys, it's one of the most crucial things in a gunfight is who has the better cover and who has thought through the situation more. The villain, I guess you should say, or the threat, or the person who's being shot at, who's innocent, who's trying to defend themselves. Is it the victim or the villain? Okay, those are the two things. You know, whoever's planned best is probably who's going to come out on top. Whoever's trained the most, whoever's thought through. And first off, I want to say, you know, you may be in a lot of situations where you will not have time to plan what cover you're going to use when the gunfight happens. So what I would say to that is, guys, if you're in a situation where you feel like the people you're around, like something doesn't feel right, there's a person that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's when you should start planning, not when things really start going down, when things start getting really hot and really kind of scary and you have a threat, a definite threat in front of you. That's too late. So guys, be alert, be aware. When something don't feel right in your gut, that's when you start looking for cover. You start looking and thinking about where I'm going to go, where's my kids going to go, where's my wife going to go, and start planning an exit. And maybe if you can, try to exit out of that situation as soon as you get that gut feeling. Try to exit away from that situation as soon as possible. And a lot of times that prevents something from happening. But be thinking, as soon as something doesn't feel right, then that's when you need to start assessing for cover. You got things like hard cover, which would be considered something like this bank right here would be hard cover. I don't know if this is going to pick up good on video, but obviously if I'm behind this bank, it's going to block most bullets. Something like this, or if you had a rock or a concrete wall or rock wall or something barrier like that, that would be hard cover. And then something like soft cover, which would be this metal building. And we're going to give you some thoughts on that. Always be aware of your cover. I think cover is overlooked in the self-defense world. We don't talk about it enough, and cover is one of your best options. Most of us are not going to be wearing body armor like the cops or like our armed forces, the military. You know, we are going to be very subject to any kind of gunshot wound. So any kind of, whether it's 22 long rifle or 9mm, whatever the threat has, it's going to be very damaging to us. And especially because we haven't trained to endure such pain. So if we get struck once, it's going to incapacitate us a lot more than it would somebody that's been in gunfights and been used to the pain and suffered different kind of wounds and stuff. So those people are trained for that. We are not. So cover is so vital for people like us trying to defend our loved ones and ourselves. So I want everybody to think about, every time they feel uncomfortable, program your mind to start looking for cover and looking for an exit, because that is so important. When it comes to cover, now, you know, what most people do, let's go over here and I'm going to show you this. So what most people do on a range when they're training for self-defense is they'll stand out here in an open range, and they'll stand out in the open in the middle of nowhere, you know, where there's no cover around, and they'll just train drawing their gun and shooting the target and reholstering and things like that for self-defense. Just over and over, accuracy, you know, controlling your gun, you know, the controls of the gun, and they'll stand in one spot. And I think that's where we really shoot ourselves in the foot. No pun intended, but we got to get off this flat range mentality when it comes to self-defense. We got to be thinking about cover and things like that. So be looking for cover. You know, you see these big trees up here? Those aren't perfect cover, but in a pistol gunfight, you know, most of these trees would be good cover. These bigger trees would be good cover. So if you're in a wooded area, You can think about things like that. If you're in more a commercial setting, interior walls, a lot of them are going to be more soft cover than hard cover, but some of them may be more hard cover than others. Be thinking about that as well. So anytime, if I'm out here in the open and there's a threat, I want to make my way to some kind of cover. I want to find the nearest hard cover I can, but if soft cover is all I have, I want to make my way to that soft cover as fast as I can and draw my gun and maybe try to engage the threat from behind cover. I want to protect my chest. Unfortunately, our eyes, we have to see our threat. We can't just shoot into nowhere, especially in public environments. So we want to make sure that we are aiming. So our head does have to be out in the open. Most threats are not good enough to aim for the head, and most are pistol fights, and they're usually going to aim center chest, center mass. So you're going to have to lean out and try to keep your chest protected as much as possible visually. Now, another thing I want to think about is if you're behind soft cover like this, that there's no way this will hold back a 9mm or more. It's not going to do anything. It's going to come right through. So another thing is, if your threat's a few yards back here, if I make my way behind cover and he's shooting at me, I want to go beyond the corner, because what he's going to do is he's going to start shooting at this corner and probably shooting through this corner. So I'd probably want to make my way here and then maybe set up here and wait for him to come to me. It's a lot safer waiting for the threat to come to you than it is for you to engage aggressively the threat and come around to him, because he's waiting for me. He is waiting for me. And so if I can, I want to make my way back behind the soft cover, because he thinks, as far as he knows, I'm over here at the corner. And I've got myself a safe distance. And if he's shooting through that corner, I can wait for him to come around and then engage him. So that's some things to think about. I know that every case is different. Every situation is different. But that's some thoughts, and I think that's very smart thinking. And I've not been trained to do this. I'm just trying to think logically. I'm trying to process these things. If it were to happen, I'm going to run them through my head and think about what I should do. So now I know this cover has open both sides, so that's a little bit different situation. But I'm talking about if you're behind a building, a large building, and this is your one corner, you would want to back up and wait for the threat to come to you. You are guarding your life or your family's life, so you're not so worried. You're not the aggressor. You want to get away as much as possible. You want to get your family out of harm's way. You are not to be the aggressor. So going toward the threat or trying to engage the threat aggressively, it could just get you into a worse situation when it comes to the law and whatever lawsuit you get into. So we're just thinking about things like that. So in soft cover, don't stay near the corner if you don't have to. Maybe get in a place where he don't know where you're at, he can't see you. Also, think about your family. If your family's around, you will want to get your family down low, because the threat is going to be engaging at center mass. So if you can get your family behind soft cover and down as low as possible, it's probably safer than keeping them standing up. So think about things like that as well. When it comes to vehicles, like this vehicle, you want to get behind the wheel well and down. And if you can escape the situation, it's always better to escape. It's never the best situation to engage. But if you're behind the wheel well here, that's probably the safest place. Now remember that bullets can also deflect off the hood and actually hit you in the head. So you want to keep yourself down low and stay somewhere right here. If you have to engage, then engage. But just remember, this is very dangerous as well, because bullets can deflect off the hood and actually hit you being deflected off the hood. So the safest place to be, though, is where they can't see where your feet are, and where your feet are also guarded. Anytime that you have cover where you can see underneath, say like under this car or under this shed here, you want to consider that your body can be seen, your location can be seen by the threat. So think about that. is the soft cover blocking my view completely, or am I being seen? That's very important to consider all that. You got to consider this before the fight, not after the fight. So that's some things to think about. Like I said, if you can find a bank or something like this, if your threat is in the distance and you can find somewhere more like this where it's hard cover and you're not going to be able to shoot through the dirt, into your center mass, he's not going to be able to hit you. That's very good. Think about large trees, things like that, rock walls, concrete walls. Those are far better than soft cover like these buildings right here. So if I'm around a cover like this, you see how this lattice is here. You can see through some of this cover. So be aware of what visually the threat can see your location and identify you. That's not good cover. So anything that you can see through like this is not good cover. This would not be a good place for me to get cover. It would be better to seek other cover. So guys, if I was behind this building and a threat was engaging me, I would be thinking about how he could see my feet from underneath this building because it's lifted. You need to think about things like that. It's so vital that you stay completely hidden. You can't be seen your location, where you're standing when you're behind cover. So think about things like that. Always be looking for the best hard cover you can. If there's no hard cover, look for the best soft cover you can, and be thinking about things like that. Like I said, on these thin metal buildings, I would want to be back. I would want to come back to where, hopefully we're somewhere I can't be seen, my feet cannot be seen, but also be back and wait for the threat to come to me, because I can engage him quicker standing here waiting for him than to aggressively come toward him, and he could be shooting through this soft cover into me, center mass, if I'm trying to engage him. So thinking about things like that is so important. I hope these thoughts help you out and give you something to think about. Remember, like I said, it is too late. By the time you get into a gunfight, it's too late to think about cover. You should be thinking about cover when number one, you should never be in an environment where you feel unsafe. But if you've accidentally entered into an environment where the threat is high, that threat levels are higher, and somebody in that environment is making you feel uncomfortable, the environment itself is making you feel uncomfortable, there's something in the atmosphere that doesn't feel right, trust your instincts. Start planning cover and planning an exit right away. Get your family out of that situation. Plan the cover. If something goes down, plan where to go before the gunfight starts. It's going to be far easier. You're not going to freeze up near as bad if you have a plan before any kind of threat really kind of starts coming out and making itself known. Plan before that happens. Always be alert. Always be ready. Have situational awareness all the time. Be thinking about cover. Cover is so important. Even in this open wooded area, there's a lot of different cover. There's banks. There's trees. There's soft cover. There's places I could hide myself, but I can't. Of course, I can be shot through the cover, but there's also places that I can get behind where, no bullet would pass through. Just so many different things. Be aware of the situation. Think about cover. Think about the different things. Let me know what you think. Leave comments below. Like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. Please let me know if you have any more kind of tips on cover. I think that cover is not talked about nearly enough in gunfight training and planning, and I definitely plan on teaching more cover-related topics in church security if I do more training in church security. God bless, have a great day, and we'll catch you guys later.